The coffee pot shook in Emma's hand as she overheard the whispered conversation. Three men in the corner booth, their eyes cold as winter. The moment he orders his usual black coffee, no sugar, we make our move. The Iron Wolves' president was about to walk through that door completely unaware that three men were waiting to end his life with a single predictable routine. Without thinking, Emma would lean close and whisper two words that would change everything. Don't talk. The bell above the door of the Crossroads Diner rang as Emma Martinez refilled sugar containers for the third time that morning. Thursday mornings were usually quiet, but today felt different. The air carried a tension she couldn't name, like electricity before a lightning strike. She'd been working at the Crossroads for 3 years, long enough to know the regulars from the riders just passing through. The diner sat at the intersection of Route 66 and County Road 12, making it a natural stopping point for motorcycle clubs traveling across the Southwest. This morning, three men sat in Booth 9, the corner booth with clear views of both entrances. They'd arrived separately over the past hour. Their leather jackets had no club patches, which was the first warning sign. In the motorcycle world, that was like showing up to a gunfight wearing a mask. Emma had served them once already. They'd barely touched their food, spending more time watching the parking lot than eating. The youngest one, maybe 25, with nervous eyes, kept checking his phone. The older man, built like a football player with a neck tattoo of a scorpion, hadn't stopped staring at the main entrance. The third man, thin with a gray beard, tapped his fork against his plate in a rhythm that made Emma's skin crawl. Table 6 needs a warm-up, called Jake the cook, snapping Emma back to reality. She grabbed the coffee pot and made her way across the diner, but her path took her close to Booth 9. That's when she heard it. The moment he orders black coffee, no sugar, we move. The scorpion neck man's voice was barely above a whisper. That's the signal. Colt always orders the same thing. The second he says it, we finish this. Emma's hand froze. Black coffee, no sugar. She knew exactly who they were talking about. Colt Reaper Daniels, president of the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, stopped at the Crossroads every Thursday morning at 9:30. Regular as clockwork, always sat at the counter, always ordered black coffee with 2 eggs over easy, always left a $20 tip. He was polite, quiet, and according to local rumors, one of the most feared men in 3 counties. The rumble of approaching motorcycles vibrated through the diner's windows. Emma looked out to see 5 bikes pulling into the lot, their riders wearing the Iron Wolves colors, a snarling wolf's head over crossed bones on black leather. The man at the front, maybe 50, with silver threading through his dark beard and eyes that seemed to notice everything in a single glance, was unmistakably the club's president. Colt Daniels moved with the quiet confidence of a man who'd survived things most people couldn't imagine. 4 men followed him in, taking positions near the entrance and exits with practiced precision. Colt himself walked to his usual spot at the counter, nodding to familiar faces, touching his fingers to his forehead in a casual salute to old Martha, who worked the register. Emma glanced back at Booth 9. The 3 men had gone rigid. The scorpion neckman's hand had disappeared under his jacket. The young one's eyes never left Colt. The graybeard's knuckles had gone white, gripping his coffee mug. The moment he orders black coffee, no sugar, we move. Her blood turned to ice. Colt settled onto his stool with the satisfaction of a man comfortable in his kingdom. Good morning, folks, he called out, his voice warm and commanding. Beautiful day for a ride. Several customers looked up, smiling. This was part of the Colt's experience, his friendly greetings that made everyone feel included. Emma watched in horror as Colt reached for his menu, though she knew he wouldn't need it. She could see the 3 men in Booth 9 shifting, hands moving toward their jackets with practiced smoothness. In 30 seconds, maybe less, Colt would give his order and trigger his own execution. Time seemed to slow. She could hear her heartbeat in her ears. Every instinct screamed at her to stay out of it, to keep her head down and pretend she'd heard nothing. But she couldn't. Maybe it was the way Colt had helped Martha carry groceries to her car last month. Maybe it was because she'd grown up in this town where people looked out for each other. Or maybe it was simply because watching someone die when you could prevent it was something she couldn't live with. Before she could second-guess herself, Emma moved. She glided toward the counter with smooth efficiency, coffee pot in hand, and a bright smile fixed on her face. To everyone watching, she was simply doing her job. Morning, Colt. she said softly as she approached. The usual today? He looked up at her, and for a moment, she felt the full weight of his attention. His eyes were darker than she'd expected, intelligent and measuring. You know it, Emma, he said, starting to speak. This was it. In seconds, he would say the words, and the men in booth 9 would turn the crossroads into a crime scene. Emma leaned forward to pour coffee, bringing her face close to his ear. To anyone watching, it looked like excellent customer service. Don't talk, she whispered, her voice so soft it was barely breath against his ear. Colt's hand froze halfway to his coffee cup. She felt him go absolutely still, every muscle suddenly alert. His eyes snapped to hers, searching her face with laser intensity. The diner held its breath. Instead, Colt slowly lowered his hand and gave her the smallest of nods. You know what? He said carefully. I think I'll just take the coffee for now. Let me look at the menu a minute. Across the room, Emma saw the 3 men in booth 9 exchange confused glances. The scorpion neck man's hand remained under his jacket, but uncertainty flickered across his face. The young one checked his phone again, more frantically. The graybeard's eyes darted between Colt and his companions. Without the signal they'd been waiting for, they were lost. Colt lifted his coffee cup slightly, but instead of ordering, he simply nodded to the room and took a sip. It was smooth, mysterious, and completely wrong for 3 would-be killers who needed him to say one specific phrase. Emma stepped back, her legs shaking. She'd done it. Somehow, impossibly, she'd prevented a murder without anyone realizing what had just happened. Except Colt knew. As she moved away, she could feel his gaze following her, could sense the questions building behind those dark eyes. And in booth 9, 3 very dangerous men were beginning to realize that their carefully laid plan had just crumbled to dust. If you believe in the power of observation, in trusting your instincts, and in the courage it takes to speak up when something feels wrong, then pause for a moment, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from today, because this story will remind you that heroes come in all sizes, and sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Colt's fingers wrapped around his coffee cup like a man holding on to his sanity. Behind his calm smile, his mind was racing. In his world, unexpected whispers from strangers usually meant one of 2 things, betrayal or salvation. Everything all right, boss? Ghost, his vice president, appeared at his elbow. To anyone watching, he was simply checking if his president needed anything. In reality, his hand was resting inside his jacket, fingers on his weapon. Perfect, Colt said, just appreciating the service here. But nothing was perfect. In the corner of his eye, he caught movement from booth 9. The 3 men were shifting restlessly. One kept checking his phone. Another kept looking toward the exit. Ghost, he said quietly. The 3 men in booth 9. You see them? Ghost's eyes flickered toward the corner. Yeah, been sitting with the same drinks for an hour. Ordered food they're not eating. Colt nodded. Men who didn't belong. Men with a purpose. The waitress appeared again, this time at a table near booth 9. She was positioning herself where she could hear conversations, where she could watch without seeming to watch. She's been listening, he realized. She overheard something. In booth 9, the 3 men were standing now, dropping cash on the table with obvious haste. They moved toward the exit, but Colt caught the way the scarred man's eyes swept the restaurant one more time. Like a predator marking territory he planned to return to. Emma was clearing a nearby table when they passed. Colt watched her closely and saw something that made his blood run cold. She recognized them. More than that, she was afraid of them. The kind of bone-deep terror that came from knowing exactly what someone was capable of. Ghost, he said quietly, I want you to have a conversation with our waitress. After closing, find out what she knows. The last customer left the crossroads at midnight. Emma watched him shuffle out, knowing she was now alone with the very people she'd been trying to avoid. Colt sat at the counter like a king holding court in an empty kingdom. His men had positioned themselves strategically, Ghost near the front door, another by the kitchen entrance. Emma. Colt's voice cut through the silence. Come sit with me. It wasn't a request. She approached on unsteady legs. Up close, she could see the intelligence in his dark eyes. The way they noticed every tiny expression on her face. You look tired, he said gently. It's been a long evening. Now tell me why you told me not to talk. Emma stared at her hands. She could lie, but lying was no longer an option. I heard them talking, she whispered. The three men in booth 9. What did you hear? They were waiting for you to say something specific. She looked up at him. They said, the moment he orders black coffee, no sugar, we move. Colt's jaw tightened. Behind him, Ghost's sharp intake of breath was audible. You're certain? Yes. Your Thursday morning routine. Everyone knows you always order the same thing, same way. For a long moment, Colt said nothing. Why warn me? He asked finally. Why not just stay quiet? Keep yourself safe. Because they would have killed you, she said simply. And probably everyone else who got in the way. You don't even know me. I know you helped Mrs. Martha with her groceries. I know you tipped the busboy $50 at Christmas because his mom was sick. I know enough. Colt smiled, the first genuine expression she'd seen. You have good instincts, Emma, but they might have gotten you killed. Her phone buzzed. Without thinking, she glanced at it, and her face went white. What is it? With shaking fingers, Emma showed him the message. We know who you are. We know where you live. This isn't over. Colt's transformation was instant. He snapped his fingers, and his men moved with military precision. Ghost, we're taking her to the compound now. He turned to Emma. Pack a bag. You're under my protection now. What's happening? Colt smiled. It was the smile of a predator. Your new friends are about to learn why nobody threatens what's mine. 3 days later, Emma stood in the main hall of the Iron Wolves compound. The past 72 hours had been a blur of safe houses and the gradual realization that her old life had ended the moment she whispered, Don't talk. You look nervous, Ghost observed. Wouldn't you be? Colt entered, carrying maps. Emma, we're going to end this tomorrow night. She'd been expecting this. Men like Colt didn't run from threats. They eliminated them. What do you need me to do? Be yourself, he said, spreading maps across his desk. Tomorrow night, the Demons Run rally. 5,000 riders, perfect cover. Ghost leaned forward. We've leaked information that you'll be there under Colt's protection. Bait, Emma said flatly. Bait with teeth, Colt confirmed. They won't resist. They're desperate. Their plan failed. They exposed themselves. They need to finish this. He pointed to the rally grounds. We'll have people at every exit. They'll try to isolate you. Use you to draw me out. That's when we'll have them. Colt pulled out a small device. Transmitter, receiver, GPS tracker. You'll never be out of contact. I won't lie. There's risk, Colt said. But this is the only way to end it. Emma thought about the messages that kept finding her. She couldn't hide forever. What happens after? You saved my life. In my world, that creates bonds that don't break easily. You'll always have my protection, but protection comes with responsibilities. The weight of those words settled on her shoulders. When do we start? She asked. Colt's smile was sharp as a blade. Tomorrow night. The Demons Run rally grounds vibrated with the thunder of 5,000 motorcycles. Emma moved through the crowd in jeans and leather, feeling every inch the part of a biker's old lady. Breathe, Colt murmured, his hand on her shoulder. I can feel them watching. Southeast corner. Ghost's voice crackled in her earpiece. Scorpion Neck just arrived. The rally was in full swing. Perfect cover for predators stalking prey. In 5 minutes, I'm excusing myself. Colt said softly. You'll be alone for 10 minutes. Colt, she said suddenly. Will I ever be able to go back to being normal? His expression softened. There's no going back, Emma. But that doesn't mean there's no going forward. Ghost's voice crackled. Movement. Scorpion Neck heading toward the maintenance area. Colt squeezed her shoulder. It's time. He kissed her forehead with theatrical flair. I'll be right back, darling. Then he was gone. Emma moved toward the quieter maintenance area, following the script. I'm moving to position, she whispered. Copy that, Ghost replied. We have eyes on all 3 targets. The maintenance area was nearly empty. Emma positioned herself near parked Harleys. Nice bikes, aren't they? Emma turned to find Scorpion Neck approaching. Up close, she could see prison tattoos, scarred knuckles. Yes, beautiful machines. Beautiful, he repeated, moving closer. That's funny, considering you're about to come with me for a conversation about your biker boyfriend. Behind him, the young man emerged. In her side vision, Graybeard was cutting off her retreat. I don't think so, Emma said. I don't think you have a choice. Scorpion Neck reached inside his jacket, but instead of his gun, he froze. His eyes widened in fear. All around them, men in Iron Wolves jackets emerged from shadows, weapons drawn. Gentlemen, Colt's voice cut through the air like a blade. I believe you wanted to have a conversation. 2 weeks after Demons Run, Emma sat in the same diner where everything had begun, but nothing was the same. The crossroads had been completely renovated. Jake still worked the grill, but now there were always Iron Wolves members at the counter. "You're thinking too hard," Colt said from across the booth. Emma looked up, just wondering what happened to them. "Does it matter?" "I suppose not. They told us everything before they departed. Rival club from Nevada wanted our territory. They were wrong." Speaking of new arrangements, he continued, reaching into his jacket. Inside the box was a medallion, the Iron Wolves symbol in silver. "What does this mean?" "It means you're family now. Not by blood, but by choice." He leaned back. "Protection, money, opportunities, but also expectations, loyalty, discretion." Emma held the medallion. "And if I want to leave someday?" Colt's laugh was soft. "You stop being a civilian the moment you whispered, 'Don't talk.' There's no one doing that." He gestured around. "But why would you want to? You have respect now. Security, purpose." Emma looked around the crossroads through new eyes. "Safer, protected." Jake smiled more. "The waitressing job is yours," Colt continued. "But you'll have other responsibilities. Sometimes I'll need you to listen, to watch, to be my eyes where my guys would stand out." Emma touched the medallion. She thought about her old life, the cramped apartment, the endless worry, the invisibility. Now she was visible, protected, important, dangerous. "To good instincts," Colt said suddenly, raising his coffee cup. Emma's heart stopped. Then she understood, not a careless repetition, but acknowledgement of how far they'd traveled. She raised her cup. "To good instincts." They drank together in the diner, where she'd saved his life and lost her old one, sealing a bond that would define whatever came next. Outside, the highway hummed with ordinary traffic. Inside, a waitress, who was no longer just a waitress, sat with a man who commanded an army, planning a future that would be anything but ordinary. Emma had learned the most important rule. Once you were family forever. Whether that was a promise or a threat depended on how you chose to see it. She chose to see it as both. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. We bring you stories that prove heroism comes in all forms, that courage isn't measured by size or age, and that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever noticed something important that others missed? Your story might inspire someone else. Thank you for watching. If this story reminded you to trust your instincts, to speak up when something feels wrong, and to never underestimate the power of paying attention, please share it. Subscribe for more stories that prove heroes are everywhere. Courage comes in all forms, and sometimes the smallest person in the room has the biggest impact. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Emma's position?